becomes very clear that for developers using code assist tools to develop better software faster, more robustly, eventually it would be really cool to be able to talk to the app. Tell it, hey, I'm in the mood for this, I'm in the mood for that, recommend me things. The state of the art is moving so incredibly fast, it's absolutely bonkers. I think this stuff is truly magic. It allows individuals, especially creative individuals, to do new things that they never thought possible.
Allan, welcome to the show.
Good to see you, Aydin. It's been a while.
Excited to do this. I mean, you and I have known each other for a long time, and it seems that throughout time, and I would say like throughout the decades now, we've always had stuff in common. And first it was entrepreneurship stuff, and now it's AI. Like this is now the thing that you do. So that's pretty cool how that keeps happening. But for everybody who doesn't know you yet, Allan, who are you and what do you do?
So, name's Allan Isfan. I lived in Ottawa for many, many years. Had grown up in Quebec City before that, and then Europe before that. So, I've been sort of bouncing around continents. Lived in Ottawa for quite a while, an engineer, and was part of Nortel, and then a bunch of startups. Many of which kind of got launched and successful companies got acquired. Ended up kind of getting the startup bug myself after an acquisition. I think it was Katina got acquired by Sienna years ago. I think it was back in 2004. So I joined venture capital group Skypoint Capital as an entrepreneur in residence with the idea to launch a startup. And so I did that. Veered from chip design and telecom to media, started launching a social video platform. We ended up calling that FaveQuest, that converted to My Event Apps. So if anybody's listening from Ottawa, most of the festivals that were going around Ottawa Blues Fest and Folk Fest and Animation Fest, all of those festivals in Ottawa across Canada and the US were powered by SaaS technology that we developed. It was called My Event Apps. And then I joined up with another company called UITV, another startup, moved to LA back in 2017. As part of that, we had developed really advanced framework for developing apps. So big media companies were using our technology to build apps in the same way that you would use like a single code base for games using Unity. We had built a UI engine for that, got the attention of a lot of big players in the US. And so I ran a bunch of technology and partnerships, and we got acquired by WarnerMedia and now Warner Brothers. So make a short story long, I ended up, moving to LA for the startup, got acquired and having a blast since then. So I now work at Warner Brothers and we power a lot of the HBO properties and CNN and a whole bunch of the other properties, developing streaming technology and having fun with AI. So that's the semi-quick story.
So this is super interesting. I mean, everybody's heard of Warner Brothers, and traditional media companies been around for a long time. Household brand, I would say. And describe to me how you and Warner Brothers like started to get into AI, or like how did your role pivot, because that's not what you were doing, but it suddenly like became your job to be working on AI all the time. And like what is your title right now, or like your official kind of role?
Yeah, I really have two roles. The official title is Senior Director of Global Video Platform. So basically what we do is we've created a centralized technology kind of in-house with some partners as well that powers all of our streaming properties. So we have HBO Max globally in about 100 countries, a number of other properties as well, Discovery Plus, CNN, and many, many others. I don't know, over 100 million unique users of those platforms. So it's this centralized platform, and I run the global video platform component of that. There's a lot of engineers obviously in our organization, and so the way that we ended up really starting to pay attention to AI, I would say, is in three tiers or three layers. One is it becomes very clear that for developers using code assist tools like the cursors of the world, ChatGPT, Claude, and all these various names that people have heard of all have kind of their own version of that. So being able to help developers develop better software faster, develop features faster, more robustly was one of the pillars. That was kind of one. The second was thinking about how do we develop features that use AI, and I'm going to be able to show you a couple of ideas that we're kind of toying around with here. So, how do we infuse the platform and the viewer experience with AI? Like, eventually, it would be really cool to be able to talk to the app, and tell it, hey, I'm in the mood for this, I'm in the mood for that, recommend me things. And so, there's AI kind of infused in the entire platform. That was pretty obvious from day one, and so we started, building actual AI powered features. And then third is, everybody that isn't developing code directly, project managers and everybody else is also using the tools to generate reports, to generate summaries. And so part of my other role is to drive enablement, AI enablement for about 1,500 people in the organization. It's one of these things where I was passionate about it, put my hand up. It needed to be done. And so I just kind of kicked off a bunch of efforts all around that. So we can talk about that as well.
I would love to talk about that because one of the things that I'm hearing a lot of the people who, watch and listen to this new way, they are in leadership positions and they want their company to be more AI native. They want people to use AI more in all the different ways. And what I'm hearing is they're saying things like, well, at best, people will use ChatGPT for search instead of Google. And, maybe they'll do that. Maybe they'll get some help in writing an email or something. And so, and your job is like enablement, 1,500 people, a lot of whom are already technical. Right. And so the question is like, how do people go about it? Like if you're a 200-person company and you don't have a head of AI and but you're in a leadership role and you really want to transform the culture, you want people to be more AI native. What are some things that you've done that has worked for you that other people can learn from?
Everybody's experimenting with many different things, and so what I suggest may or may not work for you. But where I started and where we started was with literacy and fluency. So I think a lot of ideas go sort of bottom up once people start understanding the technology and what is Gen AI and what does the model mean, and they start getting comfortable with the concepts. So one of the first things that we did was we identified a number of courses that would take you through a journey from like the very basics to the next level to the next level. And then we segmented those courses by role. So if it was, call it a general software developer that isn't coding AI ML features, they're going to have a certain need. They're going to maybe gravitate more to understanding the basics, but then understanding how code assist tools work, and then take workshops based on specifically the code assist tools that we want to play around with, like say Cursor, Windsurf, or whatever. An AI ML engineer might take a different journey, and they might work, learn about more specialized things around AML. We have a lot of TPMs, project managers. They're very technical as well. Usually started off as engineers, but they have a different role, and so they'll follow a different role. So it all starts with literacy, identifying courses. There's tons of free stuff, and so me and a few other folks really sat down and went through a whole bunch of materials and courses that we had access to, and we created a curriculum for people. And we set a goal in my organization. I set a goal for 80% literacy, meaning specifically that we wanted 80% of the people to have taken at least a basic introductory course by the end of the year. So that's the goal. We track that. So it really all starts with literacy. That's kind of one. And that one's kind of obvious. The one that's less obvious that has worked really, really well is I organized like an AI all hands. So basically I generate, some excitement. I generate some videos. I'm going to show you some videos that I use kind of Gen AI. That was kind of funny and a little goofy, and get people to like see AI as fun and exciting, and then walk them through some of the strategy examples of how people are using in the industry, and just getting people to lean forward a little bit and start understanding at a very basic level. And then the third was demos. So we have people internally that are experimenting with it or actually developing real features. And those demos are always the highlight of the all hands that we have, because it shows real things that are happening. It also gives a lot of people FOMO, a little bit like fear of missing out, because they see their colleagues building really cool things and they're like, I want to go build that. And so the demos have really worked very well. So I'm about to launch monthly AI Friday demos. So the last Friday of every month, we pile in, we actually pull in our organization plus a sister organization about the same size. and we're just going to do demos, just fun, like not exactly hackathon, but do actual demos. So that's kind of one. And then the second that we do, 2 weeks staggered from that, is a bunch of brown bags. So I'm running a brown bag that's going to be similar to what I'm going to be showing you guys today, kind of around generative video, but also how to take video that exists and break it up into clips and things like that. So I think just showing examples, what we're doing in the company, bringing external people, and just continuing that, it just infuses everybody with knowledge and excitement, and then people start really coming up with ideas. I think those are some of the biggies. There's probably one last one that maybe is a little bit more advanced for people, but because we use a number of different tools, like let's say, for example, we use Jira for a lot of our ticketing and a lot of our project tracking and so on, right? So now with one of our partners, we can actually analyze all of our corporate data that's sort of in a private environment. And so I can literally query, what is this project doing, or what is this project about, or where is it at? And so people start seeing the power of AI to help them do their job without having to develop AI. It's literally just like being on ChatGPT, but being able to query your internal documents and your internal data. So showing that to people in these brown bags just gets people to get started. So hopefully that kind of covers a few ideas and a few bases that people can get started very easily, and it's really non-technical.
So when you first started doing this, the demo things that you were showing, was that in the actual all staff, like regular all staff meeting that you were having, and it was successful enough that you then decided, oh, we're going to actually make a special time for this, like so it can be its own thing. So it's an offshoot of the parent.
Yeah, the way that it really started, really honestly, was that a lot of our leaders, and nobody ever feels that they're moving fast enough. I think that's probably, everybody's like kind of watching or listening to this is like, yeah, I'm not moving fast enough personally. Our companies are not adopting fast enough. And so I kept hearing that from everybody. And so I'm like, okay, I reached out to one of our executives and I said, look, do you have any issue if I organize an AI all hands, like an entire hour with everybody on this specific topic? And I spent a lot of time on it to kind of craft something that was very fun and exciting. That went over really well. And so from that, then we started infusing our general all hands with a section for AI and AI demos to kind of continue that momentum. That went over very well. And so I'm like, okay, these demos are, and keeping the pressure up is really working. Let's do these monthly now in terms of pure demos, but then also do brown bags to educate people on particular topics. And those are less all hands, they're more like people would just join them, have lunch while they're watching. And so, we're experimenting, learning, iterating, expanding on what's working, kind of the usual engineering way, and it's working.
This is super cool. And is there an idea of an experimental budget for AI tools? Like, is that a thing that if you're any employee can ask for a budget to try something? Have you guys ventured there or not quite? And it's like usual approvals. I know security and things are probably a thing at larger companies.
It certainly is, and I would say legals often are our biggest challenge. I think having the legal team also get excited and educated and learning about this really helps, because when you bring up an idea to them, they understand what it is that you're talking about, and what the risks are and so on. So we do have, I would say, a fairly rigid process for approving projects, tools, data sets that we use to run experiments with, because obviously we have, over 100 million subscribers. Like, we want to make sure that we're not using, you know identify data that kind of identifies a particular subscriber or whatever, that it all gets scrubbed. So there's a lot of process around that in a large organization, for sure. We're speeding that up, but it's a work in progress. The other thing from a technology point of view that we've done is we created AI sandboxes. So basically, for people that are not technical, it's this kind of a secure area where you can experiment with, and there's no leakage outside of that. So you can like experiment with it in a prototyping POC, proof of concept kind of mode. And so you can play with different models and so on, things that are not necessarily production. So that's been something that's been onboarded and has been absolutely necessary for a tech org, for sure. But even for non-tech org, creating a safe environment for people to experiment with is necessary. And it's always a balance between people learning, productivity, and then the legal risks, right? And so the lawyers are always going to be more conservative, and we have to find a middle ground. So the sandbox idea is kind of one of those.
I think that the sandbox makes sense if you're not at a larger company. Experimental budgets are great, like giving employees, even if it's $50 a month, $100 a month, maybe it's like a few $100s a year, whatever, like just anything to give people a chance to start. But of course, you have to give them those limitations. No customer data, for example. You have to be careful. And it's nice to have some sort of a central security person take a look at these things and make sure. But yeah, people have to experiment, and the demos are great because it just catches on and more people learn from each other.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's consultants that can set these things up for folks as well. And I just want one last point, Aiden, is that I think a lot of the companies that we work with have kind of tiered services where you can get started at a fairly low cost, and even do free trial, like 30-day trials and things like that. So I would encourage people to go look for that, find solutions that you can like try out, make sure that before you do it you have a way to measure it, to survey the users, to like really understand whether people are using it or not and how they're using it. And so you learn from that free trial. You hate to have a free trial and then the trial ends and you have no idea if it was good or not and whether to license it. So
And I would actually second that idea that if you don't have the technical person in house to kind of help, or someone to champion and be the AI champion, then yeah, there's a lot of external consultants, like people, even single person consultants that are passionate about AI and have gone off and like started something and helping companies. So okay, so we should talk about video. Obviously, Warner Brothers, you think about video, you love video. You did FaveQuest, which was kind of about video. So, and then you did video infrastructure before that in your startup. So we have to talk about video. So maybe just tell us, what is the state of play in generative video? Like, writing some text and getting some video. Like, where are we at? Can you tell the difference yourself between what's real and what's not?
I still can, but it's definitely getting harder. I can tell you that, by the time, we're airing this and when people actually watch it, there's going to be some new things announced. And so the state of the art is moving so incredibly fast. It's absolutely bonkers. So when I ran the AI all hands, I created a video, kind of a superhero that kind of had the logo of our organization. And it's like, I feel all alone. And I really need everybody to kind of look, get this AI superpower. It was back in May or June or whatever. And since then, the tools have advanced so much. It's absolutely bonkers. I'll be able to kind of show you that a little bit. So the state of the art at this point is that if you know how to prompt and manipulate the system, you can do it either directly through a user interface, which I'm going to demo here with Gemini V3, as well as another tool that they built on top of that called Flow that allows you to generate sequences of scenes and so on that are all continuous. You can create something that looks pretty darn real. You just have to experiment enough to know what it can and can't do. And you're going to see, I tried some things that look really goofy. So, you have to experiment. There's the only way to do it.
So everybody can be a director now. It's like democratizing the idea of it being a director of a film.
Yeah. And so, absolutely. So if you start experimenting with, you start learning what the tool is able to do or not do. And then you, keep up with the news, keep up with the releases, and there's more and more competitors. So it's gotten extremely good, but it still does stupid things sometimes. And so, people see a lot of the finished work. They don't see sort of like the interim steps along the way. So, maybe it would be good to kind of jump in here. We can talk through it for people that are listening. Let me kind of show you a couple of examples that I created, but we can also do one live. Obviously, sometimes it takes a bit of time to run through, right? So,
Hey everyone, just a quick pause on today's episode to tell you about my day job. In addition to This New Way, I'm the CEO of a company called Fellow.ai, and Fellow is an AI meeting assistant. It joins all your meetings, it summarizes them, tracks the action items and the decision, and does that better than any other tool that you've seen. We've spent a ton of time making sure that the meeting notes and summaries and action items that come out of Fellow are the most accurate, the most precise. It beats any human you have to try it. But in addition to that, what makes Fellow different is that it is the first AI note taker built from the ground up with security and privacy in mind. This means that you can use it for all your meetings, not just the customer facing ones, but also the sensitive ones, things like one-on-ones and executive team meetings and those QBRs and everything in between. It's got really good judgment. So for example, if you start a meeting and you're talking about some social stuff that you don't really want on the record that's going to get emailed to everyone afterwards, Fellow just knows it just doesn't include those things. Or say you have something that you talked about and later on you realize, oh man, that shouldn't have been there. It makes it really easy. You can go back to the meeting, select that part, delete it, and then it's gone from the record. It connects to all of the other tools you use in the organization, whether that's Slack or Asana or HubSpot or Salesforce or Linear or Jira or Confluence, whatever it is, Fellow integrates with all those things. I think the best part is that Fellow also acts as an AI chief of staff. Because it sits on all the meetings and the conversations that you have access to, you can ask it really cool questions such as, what are the biggest opportunities in my company? What are the bottlenecks in engineering? And Fellow just pieces together information, sees trends, and it can answer those sorts of questions. It can even do things like, hey, based on all of the one-on-ones that I've had with this particular person, can you create them a performance review? And it can do things like that too. And the sky's really the limit. What I really wanted you to do is have the opportunity to try out Fellow, check it out, and we're making a special offer available to all our listeners. So just go to fellow.ai/thisnewway to try Fellow. There's a discount code in there for you if you decide to continue with it. Either way, I would love for you to try it and let me know what you think. And with that said, let's go back to the episode.
So let me just give you an example. So this is straight into, if people have used ChatGPT, with like about 800 million people use ChatGPT weekly, so it's a pretty large number. Lots of people use Gemini from Google as well. I think I would say Gemini is really the leader in terms of video generation. So what you do is you go to Gemini. I actually have a pro account,
So
which I can't remember.
gemini.google.com.
Yep, there you go. You can see that up there. And it's just like a prompting interface like you would expect. So I uploaded a kind of a headshot of myself, and then I wrote a prompt here you can see. So create a scene of a man standing on a sailboat in Greece. So I was just in Greece and I had to do a presentation while I was on vacation. So I basically recorded a video and then sent the video in for the all hands, which is kind of funny. And so I create the scene. This is a very simple scene. Okay. I just wanted to keep things very simple for people. And
And Alan, did you
yeah, go for
write
it.
this text? Did you write this text yourself?
I did write it myself, but if I wanted to do something more complicated, which I often do, I will basically create a basic prompt, tell it that I'm using VO3. So the thing with VO3 is that, and most of the tools, the clips are short. VO3 is limited to 8 seconds. So a lot of the videos that you might see on social media, like the gorilla or the babies talking, or like all of those kind of funny things that are going around social, those are all created with tools like this. But if you can create a 30-second video, you need more of a script. And so what I would do is I would have the essence of the script, like a summary of it, generate a prompt of that, then tell it, okay, I'm running this on VO3, so it knows that each clip is 8 seconds. I tell it to break up the script and the scene description in ways that will fit into 8 seconds, and then it'll then give me 3 or 4 scripts, each of which is about 8 seconds long, and then I use those. That's what I did back in June, but I will show you in Flow how you need to do that a lot less. So I mean, if you want to get super fancy, you can use Gemini or ChatGPT to write your script for you. This one I wrote by myself. Okay. And so I uploaded an image, and I'm going to show you guys here kind of what the results are, and then I'll show you the interface. Okay. So now, one thing that I don't know if we tested out, pre-show taping here, was whether the audio comes through. So hopefully it does. Let me just play this.
Okay, so I don't see the audio, but it's basically you. It looks exactly like you, and you're in Greece on a sailboat, and I think you did some sort of a cheers with looks like champagne or white wine in your hand.
Yeah.
So that looks incredible.
Yeah, and so if we go back to the description, it says create a scene of a man standing on a sailboat in Greece. The hills behind him look like Santorini, where I was in reality, and the water should be clear and turquoise. The man is wearing a loose white shirt and loose white pants. He's holding a glass of white wine with with light shining through it. And then sound is light waves hitting the boat, quite Greek music, which you really didn't get right. We couldn't really hear it. And the man saying calmly, "Seize the AI moment, my friends." And so, yeah, unfortunately, if people can't hear it, the voice actually by accident sounds exactly like me. Otherwise, I would go clone my voice using a tool like 11 Labs, and then it would lip sync it. But I didn't have to do that because it sounded enough like me to pass. And
But
yeah,
you
so
didn't do anything right now to make it sound like you. It's just like happenstance. Like it's
it
not
just
like
happens.
VO3 or Google has that information.
No, it does not. Like other tools, like the ChatGPT Sora 2, what you do is you record a video of yourself, and and it records your voice as well. And so when you use that tool to create a cameo, I might actually have one that I can play for you after. It actually will use more than a headshot and will use your voice. So it will actually mimic your voice. If not, you can use another tool, a company called 11 Labs is kind of the leader in that space. So I'm just going to play it again just for people to see. The,
Yeah,
the funny thing,
it looks great.
looks pretty good, right? Now I'm going to show you a second version of that. So I thought that was kind of cool, but I wanted to create a bit of a different scene. So the beginning of the prompt is the same, but I wanted the camera to pan down from high up and kind of zoom in on the man. So you can actually do, camera movements and things like that. And so kind of let's see what that looks like.
That looks super cool. I mean, it looks like a super professional shot. I was gonna say you had one heck of a vacation in Greece. Like you brought a cameraman. This is awesome.
Well, the joke when I was recording this for the all hands was that I pretended that I actually was on the boat and that I had like a drone camera, with me to like, to send this to everybody back home because I couldn't be on the call live. And then, of course, at the end, I won't show you that video, but at the end, I kind of explode into a bunch of fireworks. So, the jig was up at the end, but I think at the beginning, people believed it. So, I mean, it is kind of incredible. And I think a couple of things that I'm not going to get like super nerdy about this, but what the way that these systems work is that they've been trained on a whole bunch of video content. And so the way that the water moves, and I'm just going to kind of play this again, like the way that the water moves, it isn't like in the past, special effects would have like a physics engine that knew the physics of water and how it moved and all this kind of stuff. These systems they don't run like that. They are literally trained and they learn from existing video content. And so how light shines through again, I'm just gonna like do this again. How the wine is sort of like moving in the glass and how light reflects and kind of gets distorted through the glass. There is no software developer that has written that logic. It's quite literally millions and millions and millions of videos that these systems have been trained on. So it's pretty wild.
It's crazy to see. I think any creative person should let their imagination run wild. Like if you have not created your own AI video yet, I mean, this is the thing to do. Gemini.google.com, type in a prompt, upload your photo, and put yourself in a place that you've always wanted to go to but never been. And there you go. You can check it off your bucket list.
Absolutely. So I think this is a great way to do it, and you'll be shocked by what it can do, and also kind of the goofy things you can kind of do with it, which is why so many of the clips online are funny. We have a new baby in the house here, and I've seen a lot of like the baby videos where the babies are talking and stuff, and it's just like it really allows creative people to still be creative and have ideas, but all of a sudden they can actually create the videos, some of which would be impossible or almost impossible to do. So, I think if we push it a little bit further, I wanted to kind of show you guys how in the very recent release, VO 3.1 is maybe like a week or two ago, that model from Google and Flow, which is more of a complex tool that allows you to create longer videos that kind of connect to each other. So I just want to show you guys this video, and then I can explain a couple of things here. Okay. So you're going to see that it's really good at certain things and not others. Okay. So I'm just going to play this out. So first of all, the dolphins really should have been swimming, not just floating.
Oh, interesting. And that turned like the boat turned into a rocket ship, and now you're in space.
Yeah. So that was the prompt that I had given it. So first I started with just the same scene as you saw before, but it did it a little bit differently. And then I don't know if I can show this here, but like I selected this square here, this rectangle, like almost like a crop. And let me see if I can actually show this to you guys. I may not be able to show it here, but I selected a square and then I basically said, put some dolphins swimming in the square. So then it added the dolphins afterwards. But what I really should have told it, it's like give it a more detailed prompt to say that, the dolphins are swimming through the scene, not just like, floating
So,
there, right?
so,
So
so that's pretty cool. So I haven't used Flow myself before. So it looks like this, just like a video editing tool. You're putting two screens together or two videos together. You're connecting them, and so what you're saying is you can select parts of the video visually and say insert dolphins here as an
yeah,
example. Oh,
exactly.
yeah,
Or
that's awesome.
put a window or replace the car with a bus or whatever. So
Oh my
if
god,
if
that I
if
know what
we
I'm doing tonight.
let's kind of just goof around here and play. Oh, 1 second here. I'm gonna remove that. I'm gonna pick this one and I'm going to add a scene. Okay, so we're gonna extend the scene. And it says, okay, what should happen next? Okay, the rocket lands on the moon. And it might take a few minutes to do this, so we can like chit chat while this is happening. But and the character plants the Canadian flag on the moon. Okay. So let's just let that run through.
So is this like the idea? Because it's interesting for those that are listening in. There's a button called expand. You press expand, and it's technically
Yeah,
expanding the scene. So will it respect the same character? Like, say that we didn't go to the moon, and we just wanted, we saw the dolphins, and now maybe there's going to be some sharks or something, but you wanted the man in the scene. Would it actually preserve the man well, or
it
does
would.
it like
It would.
distort it?
No, it will preserve the man. So I think what early days, and I mean by early, I mean this spring, there were a lot of videos online about like, I don't know, like historical characters, and parting the waters, all sorts of like historical events. And so from one scene to the next, the character looked a little different. In one case, it was more like, regular Canadian or US accent, and then it would switch to Australian accent. Like there was just no continuity because you're basically you're creating a scene every time you're prompting it. It'll decide what the hell it feels like doing right at that moment. And it really was very hard to control. So with Flow, now it should have some continuity. So it's done doing its thing. Let's see how good a job it does here.
Okay, now
Yeah.
we're in space, and now we're on the moon,
Yeah.
and there's a Canadian flag. That's pretty cool.
Boom.
By the way, that was fast. Like, I actually expected it to take a few minutes, but that was, I don't know, maybe like 45 seconds. That was pretty fast.
Yeah. Now here you see I picked VO3.1 fast. There's also, well, it's not slow, but just regular speed, and it'll be able to create more detail and be high resolution and just better quality. But yeah, it was pretty quick, and every time I do this, it kind of burns a bunch of credits, and depending on what I do, it burns different credits. So you have to be pretty careful with that. But
So that's what I was going to ask. So for someone, I think they probably have a free version where you can try maybe a small amount of things, but for 20
yeah.
bucks a month, you can probably create a few minutes worth of videos, right?
Yeah, and you can definitely do that today. So, for example, if you wanted to just goof around, you could download, and I'm pretty sure it's available, but definitely available in the US. I'm pretty sure it's available in Canada. An app called Sora from OpenAI, so ChatGPT, and that's like it's a mobile app. You type in prompts, it's free, and you can do some similar things here, but just not as advanced. Maybe more along the lines of like a single scene with a description. You record yourself, like you record a video of yourself in your voice, so it can put you in scenes. So it's like you're the character now in the scene. It's really built for that. It's built for cameos like that, and that's like if you want to just goof around, Sora is probably the easiest way to get started. I would say if you want to go up a notch, Gemini would be a good way to start. But if you're a developer, you can also build tools that access these systems server to server, so you can use their APIs to be able to kind of do that. So you can write a program that does all of this. It calls the model, it gets the results back. It does all the more fancy things. So a lot of people are building products on top of these things, which is pretty cool.
It's funny. I just opened up Sora to see if I could find you, and I think I did just find you. So I'm following you right now.
I'll publish my videos. So I think that the whole idea,
Yeah, yours are all in draft. I can't see any videos.
I know because they're too goofy, but I will post them. I think what's cool about Sora, and also a little bit crazy what the way that they've done it, is that they're basically building a video destination of just pure AI generated, what some people call slop. And so they're trying to see, like, if it was just that, you can go and create things, but you create it with the mindset of sharing it. And now, Facebook has their equivalent. I think it's called Vibes. So that people are testing out the interest and value of purely AI generated content. And I think they're going to make a decent go of it. A lot of the videos that I've been watching, like these baby talking and the gorillas and like all sorts of goofy things, they're funny.
What's interesting about Sora, everybody should check it out. Just go to Sora.com, Sora.com. When I signed up, it required an invite code, but I think it's been enough time. So who knows? Maybe you don't need an invite code anymore. But the most interesting thing is the business models that this thing unlocks, right? So you could get a cameo of Mark Cuban. So you could literally have a video of you and Mark Cuban in the same video, but then every time you use Mark Cuban, it flashes his company Cost Plus Drugs is I think what it is. Like it flashes that logo. They're like, so he's like, you can use my likeness in your video, but in return, like we show an advertisement. And like this is just like human creativity, right? This is super interesting. The new business models that are coming out from this.
And think about, even companies like, Facebook/Meta as a general individual. So, but my wife has a children's book imprint called Zugi. She writes and illustrates, children's books, and we generate, we create promotions for that. Well, now we can take an image, turn it into a video. Meta is building this into their ad platform. So you can literally upload a video, turn it into a video, sorry, upload a photo, turn it into a video. And all of a sudden now you have a video ad, which is way more engaging, and it's higher CPM for, high revenue, higher cost and more revenue for Facebook. And so, there's all sorts of new business models here that isn't just like goofy fun creating videos of yourself, but like real applications.
Oh yeah, and we should say that like this is very serious. And so even though Sora can have AI slop, you can use the Sora model on tools like Higgsfield, and you can like we're generating videos from this and we're using them for ads. So this is like very real, and I don't think most people know that these are AI generated. Someday they will know, but I think we have some time. So if you're an early adopter, get on this now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I mean, I think this is sort of like the video generation aspect of it, which I think is fun for a lot of people. We're also exploring other aspects of this. I don't know if you want to kind of touch on this, like, if there are videos that have already been created, like what can you do from those videos using AI? There's a whole other side to this that is a bit more maybe media company centric, but I could talk a little bit about that as well.
I mean, let's talk about it. I've thought about this idea. So I use Google Photos and Google Videos, right, as a result. And I've been uploading all these photos and videos over the years, and I'm constantly impressed that I could search for like wedding in Toronto, and it will go figure out where the wedding was because there's someone wearing a wedding dress, and we'll figure out the location. Or it'll even like in videos be able to search words that were spoken during the videos. So I think that stuff is very interesting. And so, yeah, I can imagine that you probably want to extract all sorts of information, especially you have a content catalog that is so huge. You probably want to slice and dice it in all sorts of ways, probably grab insights from it for all sorts of reasons. So yeah, like what can AI do? Like if you feed AI a bunch of videos, like what kind of stuff can you get out on the other end? Hey everyone, hope you're enjoying the episode. One of the common things that we hear is, hey, you all talk about all these different tools, you walk through these demos. Sometimes it's hard for me to follow along. We decided to do recently was take all the things that we talk about, put them in a weekly newsletter. We literally list all the tools, we link to them, and any demo that we walk through, we break it down step by step, put it in this newsletter so it's super easy for you to follow along. And the other nice thing is that if there's someone on your team that you think could benefit, they're working on that subject area, they could use a little bit of AI injection into their workflow, send them the newsletter, send them that particular episode. We make it super easy to do that. It's free to sign up. All you have to do is go to thisnewway.com, enter your email address, and you'll get this weekly email from us. Hope you enjoy it. With that said, let's go back to the episode.
So this is a tool called Quickplay. They're actually a great company out of Toronto, fairly large company. They've been around for quite a while and kind of specialize in, just scale, delivering video at scale. And they're building a lot of really advanced tools on top of that. And so the thing that I'm kind of showing you guys here that I'm playing around with is the ability to, upload source content that's sort of like a full screen 16 by 9 a full episode of something or a movie, and then be able to search against that. Let me kind of give you an example here. So let's call this a new project, and I'm going to search Smelly Cat, right? So what I'm doing here is I'll give you guys a little bit of background. So we've ingested, a bunch of episodes of Friends, and what it's done is that it's used an AI model to essentially unpack that episode, a bunch of episodes, and it generates intelligence about that. So, like, what's going on in a particular scene, who's talking, who are the characters, what's the sentiment, what's the mood, these kinds of things. And so, what I can kind of show here is I can take one of these episodes, I can add it to a timeline, and now I can look at this clip of Smelly Cat in this particular episode. I can edit it, I can trim it, and then I can save it and use it for a social media post, for example. I can add a second one here if I want, and I can create a compilation of different Smelly Cat examples in a show. I can change the aspect ratio, and I can manually move a crop. So a lot of social media is the 9:16, sort of like the phone aspect ratio. And so this is kind of a manual approach to that. So, in this case here, I'm like, okay, I'm going to move the cropping point here to make sure that Phoebe's in view. And so yeah, I can run through and take a 16 by 9 a set of clips, add them to this timeline, generate a compilation, and then create a 9:16 version of that. I can even create a smart crop, which it'll kind of do that cropping and positioning automatically. And so, I think for commercial use, that's obviously super interesting for anybody that has a lot of media content. You can repurpose a lot of that content by ingesting it, getting the tool to understand what it's doing, and then be able to create different outputs of that to generate interest or whatever it is. And of course, for personal use, imagine a tool that kind of can run across all the videos that you have on your phone or stored on Google or whatever, and then kind of find that specific moment of when you kiss the bride or whatever in the video, right? So being able to kind of understand what's going on in the video is extremely useful for many different cases. And it's gotten to the point, Aiden, where even sports, like you can have a tool running on top of a live game, and it'll know exactly who the player is that has the basketball, what they're doing. They pass it to another player. The system is like literally doing a play by play of exactly what's going on the scene, to the point also when a player kind of goes off screen, and it kind of projects the speed at which that player is going off screen, so it kind of has a sense of where the position is of that player. So now you can have automated cameras that are kind of moving around. Like it's gotten pretty bonkers. And so if you want to be able to generate highlights of sports, there's another perfect example where it can sense the crowd excitement, it can listen to the commentator, it can understand the words that are being spoken, so they know something interesting has happened, and then it can automatically kind of clip that. So some pretty powerful capabilities, I would say, are here today and being used.
Super interesting. And like for everybody who watches This New Way, we also use tools like this to generate clips. So once an episode happens, we use a tool called Riverside.fm, and it generates the parts that are likely to be interesting. It generates clips, and then we're like, oh yeah, that one is good, and then that one is good, and then that becomes our promotion. What we use for promos. Whereas before, we'd have to go in, watch the episode again, and say this section when he starts saying this, and when he stops saying that, put that together. And it was like all this work. And now AI can watch the videos for us and make the clips for us. And obviously, you do way more advanced stuff with sports and everything else, but there's real life examples of videos to AI and have it produce outputs in this way.
Yeah, and it just keeps getting moving faster and faster. Some of the advancements that are kind of upon us, maybe not all commercialized, is and some of them really are like replacing objects, placing objects in the video that weren't there before for product placement. You could replace that, that guitar with like an electric guitar if you wanted to, like all sorts of interesting things like that that are, coming up. So, a lot of interesting things beyond just clipping and repurposing existing content into like short clips for social media. I mean, I'll throw one
Yeah.
other crazy example at you, and then I know we got to wrap it up. But Warner Brothers has the rights to The Wizard of Oz, and there was a big project that's going on right now. The project is complete; everything is live to watch Wizard of Oz reimagined in the Sphere in Las Vegas.
Oh, that's so cool. Is it like we can go see this right now?
You
It's
can
it's
see that
available.
right now,
Oh
and
wow.
it's absolutely bonkers because you can imagine. So Google has been like a huge partner of that. It's been a lot of these technologies that I showed you. Kind of like, okay, you can generate video, but you can also combine existing video with generated video to create something entirely new. So for people who don't know, the Sphere is essentially exactly what it says. It's a sphere in Las Vegas where there's a screen that goes all around you pretty well. And so imagine, a movie that was shot in 16 by 9, kind of like a horizontal. How the hell you can't stretch it? And the screen is so large that when that movie was shot, the resolution on that big screen is going to look all pixelated. So they had to upscale the crap out of it. And then they had to fill in parts of the scene that was never filmed before. The forest, like whatever it kind of got filled in that way. And it's an incredible experience. I think that project is making something like $2 million a day or something at the Sphere. It's absolutely insane. Yeah, and so that technology is sort of leaking into the rest of the tools that we have access to kind of do this out what they call out painting. So in painting is replacing objects and things like that. Out painting is like painting outside of the screen that never existed. It's pretty wild.
All parts of our lives. Alan, this has been amazing. Thank you for the discussion, the tips on how to get AI throughout your organization, and some like really good examples. So for everybody listening, if you sign up on thisnewway.com for the newsletter, we'll send you the links so that you can try these tools, Sora, Higgsfield, all the different things that we mentioned today. And with that said, Alan, the last question I always like to end on is, what are you most excited about in the next 12 months?
Well, there's things on personal and there's things on technology. So let's sort of stick to the business and technology side of it. I mean, I think there are so many possibilities to completely transform how we operate. So I think this stuff is truly magic. It allows individuals, especially creative individuals, to do new things that they never thought possible. And so I think what I'm hoping to be able to do is to create experiences for our customers and viewers of our content that we just couldn't have done before. And so I love to see the smile on people's face when I create videos. It kind of shocks them, and I want to keep pushing the boundaries. And so I think anything that we can do to create excitement in people and entertainment is kind of what I look forward to. So it's not super specific because I touch so many different things in the org, but also on the personal front. And I think that's sort of like the big picture piece. On the personal front, I was mentioning before that my wife is a children's books author and illustrator, and one of my daughters is experimenting with turning her books into cartoons and sort of using these Gen AI tools. She's been playing with like Adobe Firefly and a bunch of other tools to see if we can like transform the printed books into actual animated series. And so I think that's very exciting to be able to kind of do that and create an entire new opportunity. So many, many exciting things to go.
All right. This was great. Thanks so much for doing this, and hope to do this again in some time where like there's even more advancements in video that we can walk through.
Guaranteed. It's been a pleasure, Aydin. Good to see you, man.
All right.
And that's it for today. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of This New Way. If you like the content, be sure to rate, review, and subscribe so you can get notified when we post the next episode. See you next time.